All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the pilot podcast of our, unnamed podcast. We don't have a name for it just yet. So for now, it's just going to be a couple of folks chatting about Godzilla and recent developments in kaiju media, kaiju culture, all that good stuff. Today we've got two people joining. First off, we have Kumo joining us.
Oh,
Kumo, how you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you.
And we have MM. MM, how you doing?
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining. Thanks for being my guinea pigs in trying this new form of long form content that a couple of folks have been asking me about. But for this style of format, what I'm really hoping to do is just casually chat about things that have happened across the past month or so. There's always bits and pieces here and there to chat about, but they don't always lend well towards a whole video talking about something, or maybe they do. But I think of note, and MM would know better than I do, is that it might be nice to have folks with different perspectives or different opinions on things, chatting about what's going on. So the main focus of today is going to be talking about Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire. Full spoilers ahead, but not just quite yet. But before we get into that, it has been a pretty busy month in terms of news and collectible updates and announcements and potential leaks as recent as today, maybe. So we'll start by talking a little bit about that. First things first, I think the big thing, uh, Godzilla Minus One winning an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects, which first time in 70 years. Took him 70 years to win an Oscar. Kumo, is someone with some experience in production of making some things, some projects. What are your thoughts on Minus One winning the Oscar for visual effects?
Obviously, it's a really big deal for both genre film and specifically for the Japanese film industry. It's like a great moment of validation, I suppose, because for decades now, it's been no secret that Japan, like most countries, have been trying to catch up to Hollywood in terms of production value, in terms of visual effects quality, so on and so forth. So for any film, let alone a kaiju movie or a tokusatsu movie in general, to win that award is a really big deal. It's also well deserved. I mean, it is just a movie where just about every VFX shot works, even if it's not 100% there. Like, it's a very impressive feat of the technology and the craftsmanship involved. So it makes me very happy, both as a fan and as an artist.
Hmm. Yeah, like I would say the VFX, they're never like some. It ranges from like pretty decent to like really really good. I'm never taken out of the movie in a way that like some of the more recent MonsterVerse movies, the visual effects can take you out.
I was going to say that at best, they rival any shot in Godzilla 2014, and at their worst, they rival any shot in Shin Godzilla. So that's still pretty high marks in my
Yeah,
eyes.
yeah, that's a good way to put it. MM, what do you think? You have any thoughts on Minus One winning the Oscar?
Well deserved. It, I don't want to say it's about time. I do
It's
think the
about
effect,
time.
yeah, but it is like the effects were better. I want to say than Shin Godzilla. Uh, G14 definitely better than that, and I think one of the things that's better about it is the fact a lot of the CGI in Minus One is set during the day.
Mhm.
If you would
Hmm.
compare that to the CGI in 14 and even like King of the Monsters and everything, when everything is blurred out by the darkness, by storms underwater and stuff like that, then you have Minus One come in, and after Pacific Uprising or Pacific Rim Uprising, when the CGI in the day looked all real cartoony, Minus had some, I want to say, iffy shots every now and then, like just going back and rewatching uh, the Ocean Gate version of Godzilla when he comes up after the decompression. That CGI shot just that one wasn't that hot, but like
Right.
everything else, well deserved. And it that's not just a minus one critique. That's pretty much any type of movie though that has big CGI. There's always going to be one or two shots that don't. that don't.
Yeah, because you have to like prioritize what shots you're going to put the most amount of work into. You want that to be your money shots. So some stuff falls by the
Mhm.
wayside.
Yeah, and we talk about Shin Godzilla. So the director Hideaki Anno, known for Evangelion and Evangelion running out of budget at the end of the series. I went to go see it with my buddies in undergrad, and they were just waiting for the moment in the movie that you could tell he started running out of budget, and it was like when Crane Team 1 is like driving up
Yeah,
to his mouth, and it's like, okay, yeah, I could see that we're starting to run out of budget.
Well, there's also that awkward stumble after he does the atomic blast for the first time. He
yeah,
sets it
Yes.
off and he just like does this weird. But then in Minus, you also have this awkward walk with Godzilla where he's doing his best impression of RoboCop with his like elbows and everything going to the sides.
Yeah.
It's just
I was just gonna say, I think in both cases it's less a case of money and more a case of time. Like
Mhm.
Anno, in the case of Shin Godzilla, Anno and to an extent Higuchi are known for being perfectionists. So they spend way too much time on a lot of stuff and run out of time on others. Minus One had a relatively fast production as well. So I'd put it more to, if I'm sure if you gave an artist with no money years to perfect a shot, it would be great. But if you gave an artist even with some money a week to complete a shot, it's not going to turn out that great.
I just want to say I think it also goes with the how much you care about what
Yes.
you're actually crafting. If you're I can't say for anybody that's in like the movie business and everything, but just from an everyday worker, if you don't really care much about what you're building or what you're making, and you're just there for to get the money, your stuff's probably gonna look cheap as hell.
Yeah,
I
if it's
mean,
just a job, then it's going to
yeah.
look like just a job.
But then when you get like Godzilla minus one and even certain parts of Shin Godzilla, and it just looks so good for so much less money than what you get from like Marvel or so. That's not even a case of money. That's just a case of this is the stuff these guys have been wanting to do for their entire life, and
Mhm.
it shows. That's like give more directors in Hollywood, and not just Hollywood, but like even Japan and everybody to do the movies that they want to do. You would see I don't want to say art, but you would see some amazing Hollywood movies combined with great storytelling with the top notch CGI. That's what I know like the MonsterVerse isn't fully liked, but that's one of the things I like about the MonsterVerse, and that I can tell Adam Wingard he's doing his Godzilla the way he wants to do it no matter what.
Mhm.
And if you don't like it, oh well.
Even before we get into talking about New Empire, I just want to say that the beautiful thing that's been going on since 2014 is that we got Gareth Edwards' Godzilla, we got Hideki Anno's Godzilla, we've gotten Wingard's Godzilla, we've gotten Yamazaki's Godzilla. We've all gotten very singular, focused ideas of what Godzilla is, and I really like that about what we've
Yep.
been getting.
And it's all been good.
Yeah,
Like there's been like you can I want to actually say go back to 1998, and that's really the catalyst because
Mhm.
that pretty much showed us don't do that. Whatever we do, don't do that.
Yeah.
don't hire somebody who actively hates Godzilla.
Yes, exactly. Don't treat it like it's like there's something wrong with it and you're trying to fix it.
Yeah.
Take it and you're remodeling it, you're upgrading it, you're taking
Mhm.
what makes it good and then you're making it even better. That's what I loved about like minus one. When you compare minus one to like Godzilla 54, it's taking the elements of Godzilla 54 and it's just making it top notch. But then when you take something like Godzilla X Kong, it's taking something like from the 70s, making it top notch. And
Mhm.
it's good.
Yeah. And I think I don't know if it was like a formal announcement or anything like that, but I thought I saw somewhere that Toho said if they decide to make a sequel to Minus One, that they don't want to give a time frame. They're like, we'll give it as much time as it needs. Like, let it cook as long as it needs. Um, did either of you see that, or am I just making things up?
I hadn't heard it, but I believe it.
Yeah, there's been so much talk on about sequels to -1 and everything that it's gotten to the point where I've lost track of who says what when.
Who said? Yeah, fair enough. Well, I hope that if we do get like Godzilla -2, quote unquote, that like I said in my video, I hope that Toho like writes Yamazaki a check and just gets out of the way, just lets him do his thing.
I'd be willing to put money down and saying that a sequel to -1 has grounds to be the biggest budgeted production in Japan at this point. I could see that happening.
Oscar number 2 time. Or 3 if Godzilla X Kong plays his cards right. We'll get into that later.
Yeah, we'll get into that later.
But just while we're on the -1 sequel, real quick, just an idea I wanted to run across you guys. How would you guys feel about a Godzilla -1 sequel that would be set in the 70s and would be during the oil crisis and have like an environmental oil crisis message along with like the post-war recovery yet in that era plus Hedra?
I think that'd be a fun way to go about it. I think that would be the purest, like for lack of a better word, the purest way to do like a straight up Showa era homage. Make like a Jun Fukuda style movie, obviously with like a darker tone to match the first movie. But that would probably be the smartest way to go about it.
Yeah, I've thought a lot about what I would want to see in a Godzilla -1 sequel, and thinking through like you don't want to see the same movie again, right? Like -1, very very successful, has some very powerful and moving themes. You know, -2 needs to feel distinct, and the oil crisis and Hedera, I think is that's a very compelling idea. For me though, like I wonder, like could you make -2 if -1 is a story about like trauma and survivor's guilt, like could you make a -2 a story about hubris? Like you have this team of people who are being treated as like the people that saved Japan from Godzilla, and maybe some of them it doesn't really impact them that much, but maybe some of them like they take it, that it gets to their head, and then all of a sudden Godzilla comes back, and all these people who were being revered as like the champions of Japan.
I was gonna say I love that idea. I think it could be even stronger if it was still set in the 70s and now they're all old, they're elderly, and they have this legacy to maintain, but now they can no longer fight, they can't prove themselves anymore. I think that would be even stronger.
Yeah. So I dig it. I like I said, you don't want to see the same movie twice, but the spirit of -1, I think that you could continue in something like mentioned, pull on those historical events, but tell a story about like a different type of human experience. We've done trauma, we've done the like the PTSD. What other elements of the human experience can you pull upon?
Yeah, I agree.
All right, other things that have gone on this month. Well, Hiya Toys has been on a bit of a rampage. We're used to getting an announcement every 30 days or so, and in the past 30 days, they've announced 4 figures, all from the Monsterverse. One of which, Ghidorah, they've got the Gravity Beam variant that is cheaper than the original one, but it has more plastic. It has beam effects. What do you think of the Gravity Beam variant?
I did cancel my pre-order for the basic just so I can get the cheaper, prettier looking one.
Right.
I can't wait to see what's sacrificed in the what makes it cheaper. Like there has to be something there. It's paint, the material, something's going to be cheaper.
We'll see. I mean, if they made that first one, assuming that they have to absorb all the cost of tooling and all that stuff, and maybe they got it all back, then theoretically you could just sell it cheaper, and you're still making money because your steel's already paid for. But I'm very curious, and they kind of screwed Big Bad Toy Store because they didn't even get the original one in, and then this new one comes out, and people are like, "All right, well, I'm just gonna wait for the new one."
Yeah, well, it looks
order.
better.
It looks better.
So
it has
better.
accessories.
Like they're literally doing exactly what Monster Arts did, but better for the collector.
But it's like it's in the opposite direction. Monster Arts comes out with their golden variant and they make it like $100 more. And it comes out with their golden variant and it's $10 less. And it has more things in the box.
That's one more for communism.
This is the strongest argument for communism.
This is the best thing about this podcast is now that MM has a public forum to say these things.
Oh yeah. I'm waiting for MM to get like really comfortable and just say some unhinged stuff.
Yeah, I can't wait to be canceled, guys.
Where you can't be canceled if you have no public presence.
I can't wait to not be invited back to the podcast.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Well,
could be worse. We could have Matt on here.
Oh, Matt should be here.
Matt, we'll have to work on that. Okay, so let's transition into Godzilla X Kong a little bit.
Yeah.
Box office tracking. I don't know if either of you have been paying attention, but the movie's exploding.
Yeah, doing very well.
That's because it's good.
Well, not if you ask Rotten Tomatoes, but if you look at the audience score, people seem really, really happy about it. For me, I was really worried. I think it's safe to say that like Godzilla vs. Kong came at a time where the movie industry was very vulnerable, like with everything being shut down. And when Godzilla vs. Kong came out and it had its theatrical run, like people were really craving that theatrical experience, seeing a big blockbuster, and the movie did very well commercially.
Well, it was also HBO Max, and it was like HBO Max had just come out that summer, and like the only thing before it that did real good was Mortal Kombat, that reboot,
yes.
And that wasn't like a bad movie or anything. Well, whatever your definition of bad movie is, though, but. It's not a Hollywood budget, like
sure,
big budget type movie.
Sure.
So it wasn't that hard to tackle, I don't think.
Yeah, but so Godzilla vs. Kong like did very, very well, and came at a time where the movie industry really could have benefited from something like Godzilla vs. Kong. And for me, I was really worried that Legendary or Warner Brothers, no, I guess it's Legendary. I was really worried that Legendary would take the wrong lessons from Godzilla vs. Kong's success. And the biggest thing that made me worried was the fact that they brought back and announced Junkie XL as the composer, I guess, is the word, or the person who scores the movie.
Yeah, composer.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, I really hope they're not going for like a 1-to-1, like everything that worked about everything in GVK worked, so let's bring it all back for Godzilla X Kong. But so like my concern was that they would learn the wrong lessons. They would really overly commit to the movie, and then it wouldn't do as well because that first movie was in some ways lightning in a bottle, right? Like the two cinematic icons coming and clashing at the same what am I trying to say? Two cinematic icons like clashing for the first time in several decades, right? Like it's hard to capture that sense again. But with what we're seeing with the box office, like I think it's on track to cross like 100 million globally by the end of this weekend. That's wild. Holy crap. I can't believe that so many people are showing up for it.
Well, even yesterday when I went and seen it, like it was I know it was Good Friday, most people were off work and everything, but I went at 1:30 in the afternoon because I didn't want to deal with like the whole big crowds, and I wanted to see it as early as possible as I could. And when I went there, like it wasn't a packed showing, but every other time I went to a movie at like this time around here in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, there's never people.
Right.
Like, you'll have like maybe 5 or 6 teenagers or something in there for whatever Marvel movie or whatever horror movie I'm going to. But when I went to Godzilla X Kong, man, it was packed. There were kids there were teens there was old couples there,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just it's not off-putting, it's just kind of weird because here's Godzilla's doing more business, it looks like, and just in my area than most Marvel movies are at the time frame that I went and seen it. So I don't
Right.
know if there's any like real
You know,
relation.
I kind of had a similar reaction. I got to see Godzilla vs. Kong when it was briefly released here right before our second lockdown during the pandemic, and the theater was packed. And it was incredible to think that, like, I've lived long enough to see Godzilla draw in that kind of a crowd. It's really cool, no matter how many times it happens.
It's surreal.
Yeah.
It
It's
is surreal.
because like if I was talking to Inferno Rodan about this the other day, if you would rewind the clocks to say 2010, and you would say, hey, within 12 years, not only are we going to have multiple Hollywood Godzilla movies running concurrently with Japanese Godzilla movies, along with a rematch between Godzilla and Kong, and a follow-up movie where they team up, along with tie-in TV shows, along with anime. Get out of
Yeah.
here! You would have been laughed out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You would have been. You would have been sent to an asylum
Like
for sure.
that's why I don't understand when you hear people say about how the Godzilla franchise is failing and how it's not doing good or how it's selling out and everything. It's like, what do you want? It's doing better than everything else, pretty much. Like
Yeah.
maybe except for like maybe Marvel, but it's kicking DC's ass.
Financially, DC is a bar so low you can trip over it at this point. um, but yeah, the in well, to the same point, like if you had told me 5 years ago that the MonsterVerse was being received better than Marvel, I would have been like, "Are you insane?" Like,
It
excuse
I
me.
it
think
could be superhero fatigue setting in, and then Godzilla and just in general giant monsters. They still offer that big spectacle that you would get from, say, Thor fighting whoever in the middle of a city with like stuff getting destroyed. But
Yeah,
instead of having your human characters, here you have giant monsters beating the shit out of each other with
yeah,
big CGI. It worked in Rampage. The Meg movies, I'm pretty sure, have been doing pretty good. Enough for them to, I guess, to be talking about a sequel to the second one.
I think that on a global scale, the thing that keeps Godzilla financially viable for the obvious reason is that literally everybody knows that name. Like, even if you've never seen a Godzilla movie, you do know what Godzilla
Yeah.
is. So if somebody says, "Do you want to go see the new Godzilla movie?" they don't need a ton of context because they immediately have a
Yep.
vague idea of what that could be. So that makes it much friendlier than being like, I don't know, do you want to go see this obscure DC character that
Yep.
you've never heard
Blue
of?
Beetle. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Exactly.
great example. Yeah.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's say for the folks listening, full spoilers for Godzilla X Kong moving forward. So if you've joined us so far, thank you for the ride. If you keep going, great. If not, go see Godzilla X Kong as
It's
soon as you
awesome.
can because it's pretty great. I know what MM thinks of Godzilla X Kong because he messaged me as soon as he was done. In all caps. But Kumo, I haven't heard from you. What were your thoughts on Godzilla X Kong?
I prefer. I liked it. I'm going to preface it by saying I did like the movie. I think people are under the impression that I didn't. I did enjoy the film. I didn't like it as much as Godzilla vs Kong. I thought that this one had a much clunkier script. Like I thought the setup was a lot more like hapdash, and it felt like we spent a lot of time just kind of meandering around with some characters that I quite frankly wasn't that into. That being said, the last 40 minutes are like the closest thing I've come to that like mid 2000s era of like maximalist dumb shit action movie like the Resident Evil sequels and stuff like that. The last 40 minutes, pure joy, tons of fun. Everything before that kind of bored me. That's my
Hmm.
that's the summation of how I felt.
Hmm. Okay. MM, what did you think of the movie?
Loved it. there's some stuff I would definitely like to be changed, but
Mhm.
in general, I liked Bernie. I thought was a lot better in this one than he was in Godzilla
Yes.
vs Kong. As for which one I like better, I really have to see Godzilla X Kong a couple times more. Uh, I really can't wait to just see Godzilla vs Kong right before Godzilla X Kong, which I didn't have time to do yesterday.
Mhm.
Um, no, it was great.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've heard of this before. I was introduced to it in university, but the idea of like a type A enjoyer and a type B enjoyer. Type A people enjoy things as they're happening, and type B people enjoy things after it's done and you have time to process it.
Mhm.
And for me, like I'm very much a type B enjoyer. Like in the moment, like I'm just trying to take it in, and it's not till after the fact. And maybe I do need to see it a couple times, like before I can come to like my final judgment on it. I I so I feel similarly to Kumo in a couple of ways. I think, like I said in my video, that to me the final fight in Godzilla versus Kong against Mechagodzilla, it was shorter than the final fight in New Empire, but it felt more impactful to
Yeah.
me than New Empire. Like it felt like the
Agreed.
hits were heavier. It felt
It's a little
like there
more.
was more weight to them.
It's a little more visceral, I find.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Um but still, regardless of that, New Empire just screams Hollywood version of the Showa movies that
Yep.
I grew up on, right? Like I fell in love with Godzilla through some of those Showa movies, and this was just like big big blockbuster version of that, and there's just something so primal and so enjoyable about that.
One of the few things. Sorry, my dog started barking the last time I was talking. That's why I kind of stumbled right there.
It's all good.
One of the things I didn't care for with Godzilla X Kong was after Godzilla and Kong like have their little fight in Egypt.
Hmm.
There's nothing there between them before they go off to the Hollow Earth.
Hmm.
I
Right.
don't know how they could have done it, like pacing wise. It just feels really. I don't want to say cheap, and I don't want to come off as a well. Godzilla didn't have enough screen time because he did have enough screen time. He had some great scenes. It's just that when you're building it up to Godzilla and Kong, I was kind of hoping to see them. I don't know do what exactly, but just wanted to see them do something together before they go off to fight. I made
Hmm.
a joke about like maybe like a 1980s style montage of them just going down to the Hollow Earth
They
and
Hmm.
should
just
have had.
walking to like and all the Hollow Earth monsters just like scrambling to get out of their way or something like that.
Mm.
Just like some neat scenes because I know Wingard had said something about he was trying to treat Godzilla and Kong like they were an 80s buddy cop thing, like Lethal Weapon,
Yeah.
and I just did not see that whatsoever when
I
they were
think.
together.
I think something that would have helped the Showa vibes a little bit maybe is if you had more time with them going into Hollow Earth, like you said, and it's kind of like Son of Godzilla style shenanigans where they're doing like stupid not slapstick stuff, but like you get a little bit of a stronger sense of their personality and their dynamic together through that.
Mm.
Godzilla very angry,
Yeah.
Kong smart.
Yeah.
I don't I don't fully agree with the idea that it feels like a Showa movie personally. My favorite era of Godzilla is the 70s era. I love the Jun Fukuda movies. Godzilla versus Gigan, that's my
Yeah,
jam. Mechagodzilla 74. I didn't get that vibe at all from this. I did get, like I said, like mid 2000s schlocky action movie vibes, which also make me happy, but it never really clicked to me as a Showa homage.
Interesting. Okay. Um, so the point on Godzilla and Kong's sort of dynamic and how they come together. I said in my video that there were two things in the movie that where my suspension of disbelief was challenged, and the resolution to like their quarrel in Egypt I felt was one of them. it's like they're fighting, they're bickering. They're literally Godzilla is actually trying to kill him. Like
Yeah.
Kong is trying to make peace, but Godzilla is actually trying to kill him. And then Mothra shows up. She blasts Godzilla to get him to knock it off. And then she like does her one little chirp, and Godzilla's like, "Okay, I'm on board. Like, what's
Yeah.
the plan?" Right? It just for a movie that clocks in just under 2 hours, I felt like there could have been an extra minute or so that
Of like them having to work together, like learning how to function together as a team.
yeah, or even like show a little bit more of Mothra trying to communicate to Godzilla like, no, Kong needs your help, there's some bad shit going down, and like have Godzilla show like that hesitation, like like I don't know, because I think I definitely am not in the camp of like Godzilla doesn't have enough screen time. I feel like Godzilla's scenes are much more impactful than Kong's just because he's not on screen as often, but he's always doing something. He's up to something when it's what's going on. But when Kong's in the subterranean realm of the Hollow Earth, like you see how he interacts with Suko for the first time, or with these other apes that are trying to fight him and subdue him. There's a lot of nonverbal communication happening. So clearly they're able to do that. They're able to think that through. How does Kong do this nonverbal communication with Suko? And I just wish that they took a couple of minutes to show more of that when they're having Kong and Godzilla resolve their differences and come to an alliance. It happens so quickly. Like it's under 60 seconds, I'm pretty sure. It happens so quickly that I'm just like, like really, like that's it, that's how they come together. I do agree with that like the buddy cop dynamic, I didn't really get that. It didn't really feel earned to me.
It
You
seems
know,
like it was the setup. Like if they would do another Godzilla X Kong, now that they're teamed up or whatever, now I could see that happening. But how it was described and Godzilla X Kong, yeah, that was a disappointment. I do have a theory on why we didn't see Godzilla really emote a lot. Besides, I'm just pissed off. And
Hmm.
that's been since Toho brought Godzilla back in 2016, where they're adamant about Godzilla being what an emotionless god of destruction, and
Mm.
that's pretty much what they've been enforcing. I don't know how much they've been doing it in the MonsterVerse, but I do remember during Godzilla vs Kong, it was said that Toho wanted Godzilla to be a more emotionless monster. That's why I was surprised they were able to get that big shit eating grin scene off.
Yeah, yeah, well, there was a featurette I think on how they got around that, and I still didn't quite understand. It wasn't clear to me how they got Toho to clear that one, but it did make for a memorable moment in the movie.
Yeah, Toho might not be allowing them to do that with Godzilla like how they are with Kong.
yeah, I feel like Toho's got some cold feet in terms of anthropomorphizing Godzilla too much. I think they're honestly a little bit afraid of shifting too far back to the times when they were ridiculed a bit over it.
Mm.
I understand them treading lightly, but given the tone of these movies, it wouldn't hurt if Godzilla was a little bit more of an actual
Yeah,
character.
I agree. Right
Yeah.
now, how they're portraying them, it's almost like a mixture of Heisei and Showa.
Yeah, I can
Like
see that.
even there's even a little bit of like Heisei Gamera in there. I guess would even be a better equivalent, especially like Gamera 3, where Godzilla's there. He's aware of humanity. He knows what they are and everything, but at the end of the day, he doesn't care.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. Like to me, Legendary Godzilla feels more like a force of nature than a character.
Hmm.
Like he's very much there as a correction factor to whatever disturbance is happening. Um, though I would say he's like particularly vicious in this movie, and maybe this is good for the next topic. Um, Twitter is currently, like as of a couple of hours ago. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but Twitter is currently having a conversation about how Godzilla is kind of a psychopath in this movie.
Yes.
How he just decides to like
Poor
murk
Tiamat.
Yeah, poor Tiamat, like, just goes into her domain and murks her shit because
Yep.
he needs her power.
I need you as a battery. You're gonna die.
I felt like
Right?
I felt that way in Godzilla versus Kong. I feel like since that movie and on into this one, he's developed some very like antisocial behavior.
I think he's just like in verse. He might just be getting tired and annoyed as shit. I mean, he was asleep for millions
Millions.
upon millions of years, and then the Mudos woke up, and then he was like, "All right, cool. Can I go back to sleep now?" No. Then like humans had to awaken King Ghidorah, and that woke everyone up.
Mm-hmm.
And now he can't go back to sleep, and now he's just
He's
pissy
just
because
pissed.
he has to do his job.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so there are a couple folks. I think they're doing it ironically, but whether or not they are, they're saying that Godzilla is basically the Scar King because he's running the surface world like a dictator. He's telling the other Titans to like get in line or get killed, quite literally.
Well, that would
Well,
be an interesting debate then, just like even in verse, because of the humans, because that's what the Titans would really be attacking and taking out would just be humanity. So either Godzilla's protecting humanity by taking out the Titans that are threatening them, except for Tiamat, or
Mhm.
Godzilla's the evil Titan king.
Mhm.
So how do you really portray that? Like you're gonna have to pick a side there. He either has to be on human side or the Titan side, just for the story. Like
Mhm.
how would you deal with Scylla in Rome
Mhm.
mhm,
without killing Scylla?
mhm.
Right.
Tiamat, like Tiamat, I fully understand because even when that scene happened, I was like, that's not normal, but okay.
It's just it just seemed so like
It's murder. He
It
murdered
it's
her.
was.
straight up like cold-blooded murder. He
It
shows
makes
up.
me want to go back and like because I'm pretty sure I have the uh the novel or whatever, the graphic novel that has Tiamat in it,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and I can't remember why they were fighting, and maybe that might be one of the reasons why Godzilla just offed her instead of dealing with her.
Yeah, I don't remember why he fights Tiamat in the graphic novel. I remember that there was this part where Amhuluk was attacking Behemoth and he stepped in, but I don't remember
That's
Tiamat.
that weird plant one, right?
Yeah, it
Like the
is.
not
Yeah.
man thing.
Correct. Yes. I don't remember. I don't remember what was going on with Tiamat. Man, I really hope we get it like a Tiamat figure in some capacity. Because right now the only official merch is Spiral.
I wonder if Dope Pope makes any money off of Tiamat in the movie.
Did
Didn't
Dope
he?
Hope sculpt Tiamat?
I'm pretty sure he made her for that graphic novel.
Oh.
I'm pretty. I could be wrong. So if you're listening at home and I'm wrong, go ahead and flood the comment section. But I'm fairly sure that Dope Pope did Tiamat.
Okay. Uh no, he messaged or sorry, he tweeted earlier today something about Tiamat. So that I think that checks out. But yeah, feel free to correct us if anyone's listening and is like, no, that's not right.
How about the toys in Godzilla X Kong, real quick?
Yeah, so MM asked me if I caught any of the Easter eggs, and I said probably not. Like the only ones I really recognized were there were two Playmates figures in Bernie's room with the podcast. There's like the normal 6-inch Kong, and then there's the Battle Roar Godzilla, which is it's a weird thing because one, that means Playmates exists in the world of the MonsterVerse, and two, they made toys of the monsters that have been like rampaging and destroying multiple
Yep.
cities.
It's nothing new for kaiju movies to do it. Like Pacific Rim did it, and Godzilla vs. Hedorah did it. But every time I see this in a movie, it always throws me through a little loop because, as Canuck just said, you have these monsters that have been destroying cities, killing people, and now they're making toys out of them. It's like the equivalent of Lego making a 9/11 set. It just
This is probably going to be in pretty poor taste, so I warn you guys ahead of time. However, is it any different than people who make merch out of serial killers? in real life?
probably not, but when the serial killers have only killed like 10 people compared to like the kaiju that kill thousands,
Yeah. No, I'm
it's
just
like
saying,
you
like,
don't.
I think that's the kind of parallel. It's not that exact parallel, but I think that's the kind of mindset in
It's
that
a
world.
gray
It's a
area.
morbid curiosity thing for people who collect like disaster memorabilia and
Yeah,
whatnot.
but can you just imagine like going into the Walmart of this universe, going to the kids aisle, and there's Playmates Godzilla versus Kong sets.
If I
Destroy
lived in this
Hong Kong,
universe, I
kids.
wouldn't leave my
Fuck
house.
communism.
So Kumo, that's a really funny point because I went to go see New Empire with my friend Lucas, who he's a casual enjoyer of action movies. He has no particular attachment to Godzilla. But when we were driving home, he was just like, you know what? If I lived in this universe with giant monsters, I just like I wouldn't go outside.
Me
I just
either.
feel like there's nothing good waiting for me out there.
I will wait to get trampled in peace. Thank you very much.
He's like,
I
why
would
am I
live in the
going to work?
mountains.
Sorry, go ahead, MM.
No, I'd just probably go live in the mountains.
Smart.
No, because then it would be Methuselah, and
Oh.
Methuselah would fuck your shit up.
There was a Easter egg in Bernie's room that I caught that made me very happy as a fan of the 2014 film.
Oh, you saw it too?
The poster.
Yep.
He has the same poster of the fake kaiju movie that Ford has in his bedroom as a kid in the opening of the
Oh,
2014.
Yeah,
interesting.
the one with the not Godzilla and the not Muto.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I didn't catch it.
Ghidorah Stand 64.
That was
another.
funny.
Yeah.
That was really funny. Like I laughed out loud, and my friends were like, "What's so funny?" I'm like, "You wouldn't get
You wouldn't get it.
it." The other moment that really got me was when Kong started using Suko as a weapon.
Yeah.
Yes.
That killed me. I was laughing so hard. But actually, like, I really enjoyed Suko in this movie. I thought he was going to be annoying
Same.
and just like a merch push type character, but he was really good.
I went into that movie ready to hate Zuko. Like, I just thought it was going to be Media Monsterverse, buy this toy shit. But
Yeah.
no, he was actually one of the best things about the movie, I would say. I just kind of wish we saw him with Doug a little bit because of the Playmates toy.
Fucking Doug has
At the
one
exception.
scene, and then they made a toy for him, and that was it.
Well, everybody loves Doug. That's why. We need a Doug and Zuko Netflix animated like series, like just lighthearted, the adventures of Doug and Zuko in
Okay.
the Hollow Earth.
Okay, I laugh, but I could actually see it.
Like no human characters or anything either. It's just those two. Like,
Yeah, it's just those two, or
Yeah.
like a children's book, a
Yeah.
picture book.
or do it like a animated documentary series.
Yeah.
You know, with Scar King riding Shimo and Kong riding Godzilla, it was a missed opportunity to not have Zuko ride Doug into battle at one point.
Against one of the mooks.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, that would have been really good, actually. Wow.
I went in expecting to hate Zuko, and I kind of just left ambivalent. I didn't hate him, and I also don't feel like the film benefited from him at all. So he was just kind of a shrug from me.
I think he's sequel bait.
Maybe, yeah.
He's either sequel bait or he is spin-off bait.
I can see either.
I could see that, and I can accept like being indifferent to Suko's involvement in the movie. But I totally went in expecting like he's going to be obnoxious, and he was at worst he was fine.
Okay.
None of the characters I felt were neither like really obnoxious or annoying or anything. Like Godzilla versus Kong, the Team Godzilla kids, especially Madison compared to 2019, they start to annoy me after a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But in Godzilla X Kong, I can't remember what the new guy's name is, but Dr.
Trapper.
Andrews. Yeah, that dude is probably my new favorite MonsterVerse character, ranking right up there with Hank Marlowe from Skull Island.
He's the best part of the human element of this movie, no doubt.
I really want to see him have a scene with Rick Stanton from King of the Monsters. I know I am like one of the only two people on this planet that like Rick Stanton as a character, but I don't care.
I agree with the Trapper praise. I really liked him. Um, I said in my video that he reminded me of the Crocodile Hunter.
Yep.
You just seemed like a charismatic dude that was like a genuinely nice guy.
I think
Um,
Dan Stevens said that Wingard's primary influences were Crocodile Dundee and Ace Ventura.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
that explains
Yeah,
that joke then.
that tracks.
yeah. It was cool to see Dan Stevens, the actor who plays Trapper, work with Wingard again. They had previously worked on a horror film called The Guest. And for anybody who's listening who's a horror movie fan, I'll just say that when Trapper and Andrews and Gia are walking towards the heave in slow-mo, they play a piece of music from the conceptual album for The Guest 2. So it's like an Easter egg
Wow,
for
Oh,
Dan
that's a
Stevens.
cool little. That's a
Yeah.
cool little.
that seems like a deep cut.
Yeah, it made me smile.
Nice, that's awesome. So I said we talked a little bit about the resolution in Egypt, and that was like one of the moments that my suspension of disbelief was challenged a little bit. The other moment I would say is everything around the origin and the introduction of Kong's Beast Gauntlet. It was like Kong was injured and they were like, "Oh, hey, there's this convenient thing that we made like years ago and it's also down here already and it'll take us like 5 minutes to put
Yeah,
it on him."
it was. It feels like a like how the Ultraman series nowadays they have like gimmick toy weapons.
Hmm.
Mhm.
It really feels like it got introduced like that. But there's one problem that there's no toy gimmick to buy for it, and it
Yeah,
doesn't really factor in much into the movie after it's introduced.
I
And what?
feel. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. I'm exactly with Canuck here with how the it was like let up and didn't get much build up. When he did that ground pound and he did like that electric shock across it,
Mhm.
when we didn't see that in battle at all, that was a big like
Yeah.
letdown. And then also when they put the glove on, the trailers had it synced up to like the classic King Kong versus Godzilla sound effect with them clamping.
Hmm.
Mhm.
That wasn't in the movie.
I
So
see.
that was weird. Unless that was fan made, but I don't think that was fan made from when it started getting posted online.
No, I saw a lot of people on Twitter pointing it out, saying
I
like, "Listen closely, like it's familiar."
Yeah. Well, when you sync it up, it actually is the same thing, but when you see it in the movie, it's different.
Mhm.
It's not that. It's not even the same sound. So that kind of sucks that they lost that tidbit or whatever that might have been.
I feel like I agree with you. The way it was introduced was very rushed and kind of haphazard, and it kind of like cycles into my biggest problem with the movie, which is like when the Scar King is introduced properly into the story, there's maybe 45 minutes of the movie left, so it feels like any narrative that's left to tell is just rushed right
Yep.
through.
Mhm.
Well, Scar King and Shimo just don't have, and I like Scar King and Shimo, I really do, but they don't have the what's the word I'm looking
They
for?
don't have presence.
Yeah, like they don't feel like a threat,
No.
like a global threat. Like they're built
Mhm.
up that Godzilla has to evolve and Kong just got his ass kicked and everything, but when they come up on screen, they don't have that presence of like King Ghidorah or even Mechagodzilla, and I want to say even the Mutos. They honestly felt more like a threat akin to like the Skull Crawlers.
Yeah, they like the Scar King, especially in my eyes, feels way too small scale for this kind of story. He would, I think, him as a villain is ultimately my least favorite thing about the movie.
Yep. It's like it should have been almost like Shimu should have been the one in charge.
Yes.
And then she was leading the apes, and they could have had Scar King as like her lackey or whatever like that.
You could have had Shimo as like an invasive species that works its way into other species and takes over as their leader. Like that's a
And then
fun
she's
idea.
coming to the Hollow Earth, or not to the Hollow Earth, but from the Hollow Earth to take over the surface now and replace Godzilla as leader of the Titans. So then she can own both the Hollow Earth and the surface world and whatever she wants to do with humanity.
Yeah, like when they first had that teaser showing off Scar King over the skulls of Godzilla and Kong, like, you know, KDM on Twitter was tweeting and teasing all these things like, oh, Scar King is bigger, faster, stronger than Godzilla and Kong, and he really wasn't any of that, right? Like, he was a dictator who exerted his control over Shimo to, I guess, oppress the rest of the apes. And I didn't like I don't like I don't love that idea. I don't love the idea that the most dangerous thing about Scar King is the fact that he can control Shimo. I think I would have much preferred like a character that could whoop both Kong and Godzilla, and then necessitate Godzilla needing to evolve and Kong needing that gauntlet to power up. But I think I do agree with that like they didn't feel as impactful of a threat as previous characters, but like we'll say Mecha Godzilla because that was the last one. And even their final fight just felt almost like it just didn't have the same kind of weight. Felt a little bit floaty
It
to me.
needed some more length to it. Like what the fight that we got was great. It was, well, I guess I could say it was good, but it wasn't as good as it could be. I was really hoping we'd see Godzilla and Scar King come to blows a little bit, like just for like a minute or two, and we only really see them like what, twice. Scar King goes to whip him, and he catches the whip and breaks the crystal off of it. And then Kong turns Scar King into a baseball, and Godzilla hits him with his tail. And that's what we got from Godzilla versus Scar King. And it tracks with Godzilla versus Kong, where like Godzilla's just gonna curb stomp any monkey that gets in his way. But I just kind of wish we would have seen Scar King do some of those like flips and stuff around Godzilla as he's trying to use his Thagomizer, or those new elbow spikes and stuff he got, because he got all these upgrades design wise, and we don't see him use them.
No.
Yeah.
And like I was really hoping we'd see him do like, I don't want to say, I don't know what the fighting style was or whatever, but where you like use your elbows and stuff like that. Like I don't want him to do that, but just seeing him like stab Scar King with his elbow spine or hit him with his Thagomizer once or twice, it would have just been so much nicer.
You know how the fight in Godzilla versus Kong ends with Kong like dismembering Mecha Godzilla, and it may as well, like if this was an organic thing, it'd be the goriest thing in the world.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this needed to go that far, but it needed a little bit more of that. Like it needed to be a little nastier and grittier, I think.
Well, we got that weird scene at the beginning where Kong got that wart dog and he tore it in half over his head.
That was just him getting lunch.
Yeah,
like, that
I
was...
know. But it would have been. I just when he did that, you notice all the blood and stuff was green. Now, if they would have done that with Scar King, would Wingard have kept the blood and guts all red and stuff, or would he have made them green like he had the wart dogs and even the Skullcrawler in the last movie?
I hope it would be like Nickelodeon slime in all the monsters. Like that's my headcanon, is that all the creatures in Hollow Earth are just loaded with like gack. That's all it is. So like Scar King would have just bled out like an oozy green mess.
We'll make it purple.
Or yellow. Anything. Like something.
Well, no, we can do it even like a Predator theme, and it'll be a glowing green.
There you go. But yeah, it needed something like that. Like I needed Godzilla to like use his elbow spikes and like slit into him or something, anything.
Hmm.
It was
Yeah.
just it was too clean. It felt like a second act fight, even though it was the big finale.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good. That's a pretty
I,
apt description.
I thought when they were fighting in the Hollow Earth and jumping off the rocks with each other, that was my favorite sequence in the film. That felt way more climactic to me.
Yeah, yeah, and I actually, because I had seen bits and pieces here and there, even though I was trying my hardest to avoid all the promo material, but it was really interesting. It was like a thought experiment for me to figure out like what happens first. Like, do they fight on the surface and then go Hollow Earth? Like, do they start in the Hollow Earth and then come out? I really wasn't sure, but yeah, I really like the zero G fights.
Hmm.
I was really expecting Godzilla to like use his atomic breath to
The
fly like he
fly,
did.
Hedra. Yeah.
Yeah,
That would have
but
been great.
I thought it was gonna happen, and then they didn't do it. I was very surprised, actually.
Yeah, that would have been great.
I do wish Mothra would have gotten sucked into the final battle too,
Hmm.
Hmm.
because she got stuck in the Hollow Earth after she got rid of the mooks.
Yeah, I guess you can't make it too easy for the titular characters. You need Suko to save them.
I forgot he brings the axe back.
Yeah, he's like struggling to
He
drag
does
the axe
he
over.
does the Minya to Scar King's Ghidorah.
Yeah. Oh god. Oh god.
Semi on
Brother,
topic. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
I
uh,
was just I was just gonna say that semi on topic with Mothra. One of my favorite things about this movie was its depiction of the Iwi tribe in comparison to Kong Skull Island, where it's not just like a tribe now. Now they live in like this 80s fantasy movie set with like glowing phosphorescence all around them. It was like some of the most visually interesting stuff I've seen in the Monsterverse so far.
Hmm. Yeah, and I really love that Adam Wingard loves color. And
Me
I love
too.
seeing so much color in these
yep.
movies now. Not that I didn't enjoy like the more uh well, I don't know what term you would use. Like the
Earthy
grounded
tones.
earthy tones. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
your aesthetic has to match the story. So for 2014, it wouldn't make sense if it was all neon and
Yeah,
fluorescent. With this, it wouldn't make sense if it was all earthy and down to earth. So it fits the story, right?
that's what I love about the MonsterVerse. Like even compared to the Marvel movies, where if you say take Iron Man, any of the Iron Man movies, and then you put it against like any of the Avengers movies, they almost all have the same tone.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
But when you go to the MonsterVerse, no matter which one you pick, well, now there's two, but between all of them done by the different directors, they all have a different look. They all have a different feel.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. That is the strongest thing about the MonsterVerse as a whole. People tend to say it means that there's a lack of unity between the films, and fair enough, I guess. But I love that each one has been a director is allowed to take the reins for one or two movies and make it their own for that one moment. And I think that's something very special. We don't get that a lot in Hollywood films.
No, we don't. And I want to say it goes back to a lot of like I don't want to say directors, but like movie studios and stuff, just not having much faith in Godzilla at first.
Yeah,
Like when G14 came out, there was that one critic who made that statement, "Well, Godzilla's box office poison." Well, look how well that's made.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's why I'd love to see like Del Toro or Tim Burton just be able to do their dream movies and just see what
Oh,
they get.
I would love to see Del Toro do a Godzilla movie.
I think his Godzilla would be a very sad film. I think he'd really want to focus in on kind of the tragedy of Godzilla because he's very into like the sympathetic monsters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Almost like a Hollywood -1.
Yeah,
And that's the thing with like people that want super serious MonsterVerse movies.
Mhm.
If the person that's doing the MonsterVerse movie isn't wanting to do a super serious Godzilla movie, and you're forcing them to do a super serious Godzilla movie, it's probably gonna suck.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, I agree. Like I know even Gareth Edwards wanted his Godzilla to be a much darker film. Legendary had to make him lighten it up a bit, especially in terms of Ford's character. Originally, Ford was going to be a much angrier, darker character, and they told him to tone it down a notch. But even then, like, the fact that so much of his vision bleeds through is like a testament to how much these are more like filmmakers' movies than anything else Hollywood's really doing at the moment.
All right, little touchy subject here. How woke do you think this movie is? Because I had a realization earlier in the day. I was reading stuff, and it's like all the typical bullshit about like Godzilla's going woke and Hollywood's going woke. This movie is not woke, and I can tell you why this movie is not woke. If this movie was as woke as people think it was, that statue of Jesus would have been destroyed. And I
You know what?
If I would have been
right.
making that movie, I can guarantee you something would have happened to that statue. I don't know
right.
if it would have gotten thrown, or if it would have gotten blasted, or if it would have gotten frozen, but something would have happened to that statue. And people, I'm sorry if that offends you, but we're talking giant monsters here, and that is a landmark that should have gotten destroyed.
Sure. So to answer the question, I'll answer your question genuinely. I don't know if you're being facetious or not, but
No.
I think that if you are watching Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire and your thoughts are this is a woke movie, I think it says more about the person watching it than the movie itself, and I think that you are looking for trouble.
Yep. I don't think this movie has enough of a plot to have a political agenda, to be honest with you.
They turned him pink. Didn't you see that?
Well, you know, as a trans femme, I am very happy Godzilla got their estrogen because they look beautiful. And that's
he rocks that pink.
Right, but
sorry, Canuck, I just wanted to say real quick.
Go for it.
Missed opportunity for cross promotion of not having Godzilla X Kong on RuPaul's Drag Race.
Which show was it? Somebody did a kaiju themed drag show for a series. I can't remember which one it was. But you're right, that would have been great cross promotion. Maybe for the next one.
Yeah.
Monsterverse number 6. Come on, man.
Monsterverse. Okay, this is gonna be my segue into the final bit.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it might be fun I've got a random Godzilla character generator on my screen right now.
Okay.
And I would like to give it a spin for each of you. And I would love to hear your thoughts on how whoever spins out of this, how you would integrate them into the next Monsterverse movie.
Oh, sweet.
Wait, so we're each like getting a different monster, or both the same?
You would each get a different monster.
Are you going to do this too with us?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think you should.
Yeah, you should go first.
Yeah, definitely.
I should go first. I'll do it if MM goes first.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
All right. Let's see how wild I can get this.
All right, I just spun it. Okay, MM, you have Orga.
Orga from G2K?
Yeah. How would you integrate Orga into the next movie?
I would have something with Monarch finding the UFO in the Arctic, almost like a thing homage.
Mm-hmm.
And then having them find microscopic organisms that would end up being the aliens themselves that have came to the Earth on that ship.
Mm-hmm.
With the humans not realizing that these microorganisms are highly intelligent, and they are searching Monarch as they are researching them. And they get all the information on like the Hollow Earth and Godzilla and everything. And pretty much, I want to say the same plot point almost of Godzilla 2000, with them trying to clone Godzilla in order to be the perfect organism on Earth. And then Godzilla just senses what's going on, and Godzilla versus Orga 2.0.
Godzilla finds another Titan to murk.
Yeah.
And power up to fight Orga.
I guess we could do something where like we'll enhance Orga's like regeneration, where he's almost can't be killed. Mm-hmm. So that means Godzilla has to go get Kong in the Hollow Earth, and some plot point with the Hollow Earth having something that can kill the alien.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, that's how I would shoehorn Orga into the Monsterverse.
Yeah. I dig it. So like one thing, whether it's Orga, whether it's Destroyer, one thing I would love to see is like a human-sized like kaiju threat, but done in like a horror movie type thing. So when you said
Hmm.
like it would be in the style of The Thing, like The Thing being like a very classic horror movie, I feel like there is room to do a horror story in the MonsterVerse, whether that's an Apple TV show or part of a segment or a sequence in a movie. Like I feel like horror is a direction that I would really, really want to see.
Orga's regeneration has been something that I wanted like more explored in any type of media, be it video games or canon or not canon, but comics.
Hmm.
Uh, and it writes itself so well to almost be like the thing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
even in the manga tie-in for Godzilla 2000, the aliens like you don't get, if I remember right, you don't get like the millennium that you do in the movie. You get like a bunch of like slime people,
Hmm.
Hmm.
and then like they all become Orga, and that's what I'd like to see more explored, I guess, with Orga. Like you could have him again found in the Arctic, just like the Thing, and then you could even have him like either absorbing or taking over the scientists that are there to get further into Monarch. I don't know.
Yeah.
That just sounds like it's just ripping off the Thing too much, though. So
No, I think it sounds fucking rad. Honestly,
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it might actually make for a pretty compelling human element
Hmm.
in one of these movies. Cool. Kumo, I ran it for you. I ran my random generator. You got Gorosaurus.
Oh, oh man, that. Okay, so I feel like Gorosaurus is so easy to integrate that I'm going to try to find some more convoluted way of doing it.
I can spin it again if you want.
No, 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 no. I want the challenge. I want the challenge.
Okay.
So in this hypothetical situation, I am given the next MonsterVerse movie, and I'm told I have to include Gorosaurus. So my first
Exactly.
instinct is I want to make Gorosaurus a serious threat. So what I do is Gorosaurus is a failed attempt at doing a Jurassic Park scenario. They find the bones of this large dinosaur, roughly Godzilla's size. They clone it, and it's just a monster. It's vicious. It likes to eat people. I would like to make that a very clear point. I want some Jurassic Park style sequences of it growing and eating people, and then eventually reaching Godzilla's size and having a proper dinosaur on dinosaur fight would be pretty dynamic. I don't think we've had that in a good little while.
I want to see Godzilla get kangaroo kicked.
Yeah, I'd keep the kick. I'd like the kick to be introduced when it's smaller too. So it's like
Yeah.
kicking down tanks and making them roll down streets and
Yeah,
stuff
that'd be
like that.
cool.
Yeah. Uh, that'd be my main conceit. My main concept. I wouldn't change too much about Gorosaurus outside of the origin and making him more actively dangerous. Maybe I'd introduce another dinosaur-themed kaiju. Like maybe I'd bring back
Titanosaurus.
Titanosaurus, and I'd have Gorosaurus like break its neck, like the Spinosaurus does the T-Rex in Jurassic Park 3. Something along those lines. That's what I
Yeah.
do.
Cool. Another little horror spin. I think maybe that's what we can all agree on. Monsterverse, we need a horror element at some point.
That's the thing that the 2014 movie did really well in its first act that I wish had gotten carried over a bit more.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, I've just spun it for myself. I got Kamakarus.
Nice.
Kamakarus. So one thing that I think would be cool with Kamakarus, I had this thought when I saw somebody asking on Twitter, how would you do a Godzilla version of Gamera Rebirth? And I would love to see Kamakarus in a capacity where like there are Kamakarus soldiers, but also like a Kamakarus queen.
Hmm.
And perhaps it's like Hollow Earth Like they find an undisturbed Kamacuras hive or a nest or whatever, and the Kamacuras come out and they're harvesting. They're harvesting like resources to feed their queen, but then they realize, oh, there's actually resources that are man-made on the surface that are way more efficient than anything they can find in the Hollow Earth. So they tunnel out and they're stirring shit up. Godzilla's affected, Behemoth's affected, all the surface titans are affected. And so like Monarch and or the Titans are trying to take out these things as they're burrowing out on the surface, but they're coming out in the Hollow Earth. But then eventually enough of them harvest resources for their queen that the queen comes out, and Godzilla and Kong have to figure out how to deal with her. I think that's how I would do Kamacuras.
I like it. Like I definitely see like the Gauss influence on it, which I like a whole lot.
Combine some Mega Gears into her too.
Yeah, it does have a little bit of Megaguirus. Yeah, I've always really liked Kamacuras. Like I've liked bugs. I like praying mantises. I just feel like Kamacuras always gets like the short end of the stick.
The Kamacuras puppet in Son of Godzilla, when it does the close-ups of the mouth, that's like legitimately upsetting at times. I always liked Kamacuras quite a bit.
Kumo thank you so much for joining me in this pilot of what might be a podcast. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how people like it. And if folks want to keep up with what you're doing or get in touch with you, the best place to find you is in the Kaiju Hugbox Discord server, which is linked conveniently in the description of this video and all of my videos. So I think if you haven't joined yet, you should join because it's a great time.
It's the best Kaiju Discord online, guaranteed.
Guaranteed or your money back.
Guaranteed or your money back.
Yep. It's the first server I check every morning when I wake up.
Yeah. Kumo loves us all.
All of you.
All of us.
We are all Kumo's children.
Very special.
You're all my children now.
Oh, goodness. All right. Thank you both so much. And to the folks at home, thank you so much for listening. And we'll talk to you again soon. Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.